Today I'm chatting with Julianna Peña. Julianna is a UFC champion, can be fighting for the belt again. Beat up a whole lot of girls over there and crushed their dreams. Feels pretty good about it, I think. How you doing, Julianna? Thanks for coming through.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Derek. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. How did that start? Little Julianna, you were telling me earlier how the Venezuelan Vixen theme came about. And were you born over there? Or were you born in the States? Or how did your journey start?
Yes, thank you. My dad is from Venezuela. I've been there a few times visiting as a kid. I'm actually not from Venezuela. But my coach wanted to name me something that would stick in people's minds and that would get them to remember. So on one hand, I was like, yes, a super unique fight name. Everyone's going to remember the Venezuelan Vixen. On the other hand, nobody can spell Venezuela. So it's kind of been a double-edged sword with people not being able to find me and be able to search my name because for whatever reason. Anyhow, no, not from Venezuela.
We'll put it on the screen. We'll put the name properly spelled on the screen with your social media so they can find you easy.
Exactly. But I'm from Spokane, Washington. Mm-hmm. And I kind of got my start going into a women's cardio kickboxing class to lose some weight. So that's kind of how everything got started for me.
How old were you?
I threw my first punch at 19 years old.
19?
Yeah. 19. But I will say I'm the baby of 4, and my brothers and sisters beat the crap out of me. And I have a very large family, and so we would also, during all the holidays and get-togethers, I was always getting the tail end of a lot of beatings all my life. So grew up pretty aggressive, but just didn't really know where to channel it. Got in some various fights growing up in school, and then when I graduated high school, my sister had invited me to a women's cardio kickboxing class to lose some weight. And so I needed to, and I joined the class, and my coach asked me, where did you box? And I said, I didn't box. And he goes, well, where did you learn how to punch? And I said, well, you just taught me. And he's like, you're a natural. And so I was happy, coming from a place where I was in sports that never got the individualized attention, and I'd always be on teams where it didn't really seem like they cared about winning or losing, and I was always very competitive. So when I found an individual sport like fighting, I was happy because I didn't have to depend on other people in order to win. It was all, based on my performance and how I did individually. And I really honed in on that. And I said, oh man, this is something that I should have been doing a long time ago. And my parents probably should have got me in karate or something like that, because this is my niche. This is my thing. And I kind of just grabbed onto it and haven't looked back since.
So you started training, so we had a fitness boxing type class, and then when you start taking real fighting, real MMA, what boxing was the first thing?
Yes. No. I was learning everything all at the same time, but I'll tell you, as a broke student, I couldn't pay the gym dues, and I couldn't afford to train in the gym. And so for payment, I was known as Julie Clean, and I had to mop the mats, and I had to vacuum, and I had to come in every day to tidy the gym up. And so my coach, he was a promoter. He has his own fight show in Spokane, and he said, you can't pay the gym dues, so you have to fight for my show. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm fighting. And that's kind of how I ended up in my first amateur fight. Yeah.
Wow. So from there to world champion, so you threw your first punch at 19. How old are you when you win that belt?
When I won the belt in the UFC?
The UFC belt.
I was 20, golly, how old am I? 30 maybe? Wait, 31? Might have been 31. Yeah.
I was
I'm an
at
old
that
lady.
fight.
I'm not an old spring chicken no more.
I was at that fight for the record. So
Were you?
I was. And I was sitting in the third row at T-Mobile when you won your belt.
Wow.
And you were a 9-1 underdog, something like that. I think it was 9-1 underdog against Amanda.
Yes.
And Amanda, I think she didn't lose a fight for something like 7 years at the time.
7 years.
Close to 7 years. She went undefeated, 2-division champion. Yeah. And I remember, I'm sure you've rewatched the fight, but I remember the feeling in the room when you won that fight, and the whole stadium was either quiet or gasped. There was
yeah.
It was I never seen that sort of experience at any other fight. The way that I'm always very in an even mood, but I'm aware of what's happening around me,
Yeah.
And the people were there was a shock,
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, she's looking good. And then oh shit, she's got that.
Yeah.
And we had, Bilal was a mutual friend, Bilal Muhammad.
Yes.
It's also from Chicago area. And
Yeah.
so I don't know Amanda. I respect Amanda. I don't know Amanda. So I was hoping that you were going to pull it off for yourself and your team in Chicago and so on. And you got your W and got your belt. And I was like, oh, shit, look at that. But I was there, yeah.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere was electric, you know what I mean? And this is going to sound horrible because it's not very, humble of me. But
I'm really known for my humility.
Yeah,
as well.
but
Probably
for some reason, I feel like when I fight, it's always, and this is just the way that I feel, but I always feel like it's like a lot of excitement and and it might be my fighting style where it's like I'm kill or be killed, you know what I mean? Where I'm literally always trying to go for the kill at all times. I'm not into, the point sparring or anything like that. I'm literally trying to hurt you and you're trying to hurt me. So my mentality is always kill or be killed. So I always feel like when I fight, there's a certain energy in the atmosphere that is, to me, unmatched. And I feel like it must be the passion that I bring or the excitement that I bring is just my fighting style because people do know that it's like you got to come for her or else she's coming for you and she's literally going to rip your eyeballs out if she has to, because it's the most important thing for me is just getting my hand raised at any and all costs. If I got to bite your ears off, I'm going to bite them off. You know what I mean? I'm going to do whatever I can to get the W. And I think that people know that about me. So the energy is always very everyone's always very vested in what's going to happen.
When I was a little kid, my father used to say, when you're competing in something, if you can win fair and square, that's great. And he said, but if you can't win fair and square, don't forget to cheat.
Yeah. Hey, if you're not trying to cheat, you're not trying to win. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to win. I'm always trying to win. So I'm going to do whatever I can.
Ear biting and eye gouging included. Fair.
Maybe just stick a toe in the cage or something like that. Whatever. If the ref didn't see it, it totally counts. Or doesn't count, I mean.
See, a bizarre thing that I see from internet culture is, people will write me, yesterday I was up at one time I was up 950,000 in the stock market yesterday. But at the end of the day, I was up about 890,000. And then today, when we were just chatting earlier, I was up a little over 400,000 today.
Insane.
No, there's other times that things, go the opposite way, and
right.
That's less fun. I've tried both.
Yeah.
It's more fun when your account's going up. The internet people seem to think that when something like that happens, it's like an overnight success. It's like you just always you got lucky. You made a 1.3 million or whatever in the last 30 hours.
Yeah.
You got lucky. I'm like, well, it only took me 30 years of planning to get lucky,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Derek, you got this big place or this or that, so you'll get lucky.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the f*** do you accidentally get a UFC belt where you got lucky and got the UFC belt? You got lucky and made, $100 million or on your way to $100 million. Those things took years of planning. And that's why I asked you. So you started at 19, took you 11, 12 years to go from, starting training, thinking about it a little bit. But, a decade of serious work to go from there. You spent all of your 20s to be that person that you are today.
That's exactly right. And I think that a lot of people are a tad misguided when it comes to that hard work of things, because I have little kids, not to mention any names, but younger generation that see the things that I have accumulated in my life and they think, well, I'm going to be a fighter now. And I had this one particular kid that was like, I'm going to be a fighter because you live here and you have this and you drive this. And I'm like, I don't think you're almost disrespecting me in a way, because you think that you can get this overnight and that all of a sudden you're going to have the things that I've accumulated. This has taken, like you said, since I was 19 years old. I'm an old woman now. I just turned 34 this year. This is not something that has happened overnight. I have been grinding. I have torn every ligament that I could possibly do and been able to come back and still been able to fight and make a living. But this has been years and years and years of grinding, of nonstop hard work and not being deterred when you're down in the stock market or when you have an injury, So these kids these days, they just think, oh, well, I'm just going to go be a UFC fighter and become a UFC champion like you. It's just that's not the way that it works. You don't have the work ethic. And I think that that's something that people kind of think that it's just easy to do, and it's absolutely not. I mean, there's not anything I can think of, maybe besides NFL football, that is more physically and mentally and emotionally demanding than fist fighting for a living.
I think what you do is tougher, honestly. I think a lot of football players would agree with that. I think the UFC is a lot tougher sport than NFL, and you have a diffusion of responsibility in a team, which you kind of touched on earlier, versus an individual sport where it's really you can't credibly blame somebody else for your performance in a one-on-one scenario. In a team sport, I think there's a diffusion of responsibility. They don't work quite as hard. They have a long off season. Like, you're putting in work all the time.
Yeah.
You're putting in work all the time and keeping your cardio up and your weight in range and adding new skills and keeping old skills and you forgot more stuff about fighting than anybody else ever learned. That nearly anybody else ever learned.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And when people talk loosely about something like a UFC championship, it's like, yeah, okay, but there's 100 champions ever. UFC is around for 30 years now, and in 30 years there's about 100 champions in 30 years, and I interviewed about 40 of them. So I just never heard anybody say, "Oh yeah, it was easy. Oh yeah, I just got lucky."
Yeah, no, and it wasn't just some fluke thing for me. I said, years ago, this was, the UFC had flown me out to Auckland in New Zealand, and then they put me in Singapore right after that. I was 4 months pregnant. No one knew I was pregnant. And they said, well, how are you going to beat Amanda when you fight her? And I said, I'm going to take her into deep waters and I'm going to choke her. I said, this girl is a perfect matchup for me. And 5 years ago, I had said exactly how I was going to beat her. Leading up to the fight, I said exactly how I was going to beat her. So fluke things don't happen like that. You know what I mean? If you called it 5 years ago and then you're calling it the week of the fight, or even leading up to the months and months leading up to the fight, and you say, this is how I'm going to win, and then you go do that, you're going to tell me that was a fluke? Again, it's just one of those insulting things where people just think it's easy and they just say, oh yeah, she had COVID and she was sick and that's why she didn't have a camp. It's like, you can give me all these excuses that you want, give me all the excuses. But at the end of the day, on that day, I had her number. And on the second time that we fought, unfortunately, things didn't go my way, but I was never out of the fight. I don't care. Sure, it looked bloody. But for me, it was like, I almost caught her in an armbar in the fourth round. I was in that fight every single second through 25 minutes of fighting. And unfortunately, we'll never be able to see what was going to happen in the third fight because she retired. So all the best to her. I would obviously love to see that play out. But hey, Derek, that's not why we're here today.
When you go fight for your next title fight, do you have some thought in your head of like, I wish that was her again for some reason, or you're just kind of over it and you don't care who it is?
No, absolutely. You want that. You want that because first off, there's never been a trilogy fight in the UFC, So I was thinking of it in terms of this is going to be massive for the company to have the first biggest women's trilogy in combat sports. There's not been a bigger trilogy in my opinion. And I feel like that opportunity just kind of was gone. It's fugazi. It's not, it doesn't exist. And it sucks because that's what you want as a fighter. You want, the fight that's going to get more people interested. And now that opportunity is no longer available. But I have cried about it for too long. And now it's time to move on to what's next. And if it's not her, it's whoever's in front of me. And that's all I care about.
2024, you're going to be fighting for that belt again.
Yes,
yeah?
sir.
So walk us through then from 19-year-old Julianna. What are some of those steps that have to happen from your early life to be in your current position?
It's one of those things where you have to be healthy. You got to be healthy to fight, and you are constantly fighting that by making sure that you are recovering just as hard as you're training. And that for me has always been a big problem, especially as a single mother. It's very difficult to be able to just focus on myself in a selfish sport like fighting because I got a million other things going on. I got to take her to dance. I got to take her to jiu-jitsu. I got to, do all these, pick her up from school and it's in the city and I'm in the car for an hour and a half driving her to and from school every day, So trying to shuffle being a single mom and raising a daughter while also trying to focus on what I have to do is one of those things as far as time management that needs to be more dialed in better. And I think that that's one of those things. One of the things that you hear a lot is more money, more problems. It's like, yeah, I need to start hiring out more help. And that can kind of be taxing mentally, because who am I going to hire that I'm going to let into my space? I don't trust anyone. You know, I misplaced my iPad and I'm like, somebody stole it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to let some stranger in my house and kind of, feel like I got to be on all the time because I got this stranger that I'm trying to impress. And you don't want to have to try to impress anyone when you're fighting. You just want to be able to focus on the fight. So one of those things I think for me is going to be, I can't do it all, and you need help, and you need to hire out that help. And that's going to be one of the key things for me, because I think it will help me manage my time better so that I can focus more on fighting for myself. Because like I said, it's a very selfish sport, and it's something that you have to be completely zeroed in and focused on, tunnel vision throughout the entire time. And that can sometimes be very hard to deal with. It's very hard to manage relationships and stuff like that when you're doing something that a majority of people don't understand.
You know, in my business, I have to do a lot of things. I need assistance, and I need people to help and outsource things to. You can't go do everything. And there's another misconception about that. There's some people on the internet with extraordinarily low IQ. Exceptionally low IQ. It's amazing they can manage to remember to breathe, keep their heart beating at the same time and everything. I'd hate to be that dumb, but there's some people out there that are in fact that dumb, that they think like if it's your business, you're supposed to do everything.
Right.
And what you do with this is your business. Is what we're talking about. Is a very similar concept. Like,
correct.
I'm supposed to do everything, and I think, well, hey, dumbass, is Jeff Bezos supposed to deliver every package for Amazon? Because it's his business. Would that be the best use of his time? Jeff should come deliver all those packages personally.
Right.
Elon Musk, he's supposed to, do the final walkthrough on every car and check the tire pressure himself before a Tesla goes somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, how dumb does a person have to be to think that, of course you're supposed to outsource tasks that can be outsourced, so you can focus on the things that, only you can do, that you must do to be successful in that area. So, for me, I as much as I'd love to hire somebody to lift the weights for me and, the muscles show up here, like it doesn't work that way. I haven't found a good solution for that yet. I talked to some of the best bodybuilders in the world, and they haven't found a good solution either. They've been lifting the weights themselves all those years.
Yeah.
Or as much as I'd love to have, somebody else do the MMA training and I just have the skill, it doesn't work that way. So I got to go do that myself. And, the things in the stock market, I have to go do that myself. And then there's some things in the business that I have to do myself. But I try to outsource as much as I can to other, I only want a few people around me. I don't like to have a lot of people around me for some of the same reasons that you said. I'm the only child. I'm the only grandchild on both sides. I'm extremely comfortable being by myself. I prefer to be alone than with most people.
Yeah.
So I only want to spend time with certain types of people that are, very industrious and hardworking, and you kind of rub off on each other. Your good habits will rub off on each other.
Yes. Yes.
Instead of being around people that you're like, ugh, and it feels draining, that you're like, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, and
Right.
I don't want to be around that. So, but it's very important that the things that you can outsource, absolutely you have to.
Well, I just had a hard time because for the first time, I bought a house, and I finally was like, okay, I'm going to hire a cleaning lady. So I hired a cleaning lady, and then she took the crown molding off of the side of the wall, and then my noise machine broke, and then I was missing stuff, and I'm just like, this is why I have a hard time outsourcing these things, because I can clean my house myself, and then I don't have to worry about this. If I break the crown molding off the wall, it was me, you know what I mean? But when you see it done by somebody else, point is that my friend told me, you trying to be the best cleaner in the world, or are you trying to be the best fighter in the world? What are you trying to do? You know what I mean? And
you know what my cleaning lady had the audacity to do? She moved my keyboard on the desk over there. She moved my keyboard to dust. And then she did it again. And then she moved my charger, my phone charger, the cable. I set it down a certain way.
Yeah.
And then there's the phone charger and the computer charger, and I keep those cables separate. And she just intertangles them and puts them in a pile.
Well, I guess
the hell does she think?
Yeah, no, I guess they say that you gotta train the cleaning lady like you would a dog. You know what I mean? You train them how you want your stuff to be. And so I was like, no, she's fired. I gotta find another cleaning lady.
I told her no Christmas bonus if that mouse or keypad are moved, or if my wires are intertangled again, it's like no Christmas bonus. Forget about it.
No, it is something that I'm trying to grow up a little bit in a sense. It's like, listen, you're not going to be the best cleaning lady in the world. Relinquish the rights, you know what I mean? Let go of the control and just hire it out, you know? So, and that's another thing though. I got to drive an hour and a half to the city every day to drive my kid to school. It's like, hire somebody to do that so that you can get the sleep that you need as a combat athlete. And I'm like, now hang on, that's a problem for me because I don't know how this person drives. You know what I mean? That's my kid. That's my precious cargo. Like, I would much rather be, you know, mentally safer when she's with me than with a complete stranger. Like, what are they listening to? What are they talking about? How do they drive? Is she going to get T-boned? You know what I mean? And so it's hard for me to think about hiring out for these things because I'm so protective as a person by nature. I just want to say, you know, I got this. I can do it all. But that's the problem that I'm having right now is just knowing that it's like it's okay to not do it all and just trying to find a way to release that control. It's very difficult for me.
I don't think when I come up with people have this excuse, they're like, you know, Derek, I don't have the money to do this or that, or I don't have the time. And I was like, this is a lifestyle choice. It's like, how much spare time do you have? Or like, I don't have any, you know, free time. I have zero free time. I have to prioritize well. What are the things that I must do today? What are the things that I'd like to do today? We got to get all the musts done before we start doing, you know, I don't need a lot of leisure. I really enjoy making fun of people, especially a man. What they call a man today is, you know, an interesting joke. But
don't get me started, please.
Oh, I will now.
No,
right.
please
Perfect.
don't.
Excited. What they call a man today is like, you know, I don't think like a man is not supposed to be more concerned about like, you know, leisure or resting versus like getting shit done. Like I think a person should have, any successful person has to have a strong bias towards productivity, or, you know, looking at like what can I create, what can I build, what can I do, instead of like, you know, entertainment. So I think it's kind of a joke when somebody says, "Oh, I don't have the time." Well, they have time for entertainment.
Yeah.
They have time for leisure, but they don't have time for productivity. Like, well, I got to live my life. No, you don't got to live your life. And maybe I'll poke at you about this one because I'm curious your perspective. But like, when people talk about this balanced life thing, that's something that idiots like to criticize me for a little bit. So you need more balance. So no, you don't need any balance. You know what? If you're in your 20s or 30s and you want to have a successful life, if you're in your 20s and 30s, I grew up poor. It was American poverty. It wasn't third world poverty, but it was like real American poverty. It was, you know, quite shitty.
Yeah.
And I was like, this. And I said, affirm this. And I didn't know how to fix it, and I don't know what I was going to do. But as a teenager, I was like, this, like I'm going to figure out how to do something and make things better, you know?
Right.
And then when I see people that are like, they got time, they got money for cigarettes, they got money for alcohol, they got time to do all these destructive, time-wasting entertainment things,
right,
but they're not taking their productivity seriously. They want to substitute to leisure instead of, you know, producing and, you know, creating things. I'm like, well, of course you're poor. Yeah. Of course you're poor. Like, how would it be otherwise that you wouldn't be poor when you're, you know, engaging in poor behaviors consistently? And I think there's a consistency of your behaviors. If you're doing the right things consistently, you tend to have good outcomes over time. If
right.
you do dumbass things consistently, well, of course you're going to have outcomes like a dumbass.
Right. You know, I think that for, you know, as far as the choices that people make, it's a lot easier for you to screw around when you don't have, you know, goals in life. And those are people that I don't want to associate with. I think you said something earlier about the people that you hang out with, and they say something like, you are the difference of the 5 people that you associate with. So who are you hanging out with? Look at your circle and I'll tell you who you are. Are you hanging out with losers? Because you'll be the 5th loser, you know? Are you hanging out with successful people? Because then you're going to be successful. And the people that I try to hang out with are good-hearted, successful people that I look to as mentors and guides, because I don't have the answers and I'm looking for the answers. And I think that can kind of also be the difference maker between somebody's success and somebody's failure. And another thing is balance. There is no balance. There is no balance. I'm all in. I have bought in 110%. I don't have balance in my life. I'm fighting, and that's all I can think about, and that's all that matters. And if you're not my daughter, and if you're not involved in fighting, I don't have time for it. Mm-hmm. I am perfectly happy, like you said, being a single woman living in her own spot. It's luxurious. I can't think of anything more luxurious than the time that I have to just dedicate to me, myself, and my daughter. And if it's not one of those things, then, I don't have time for it. For example, people are always like, well, why aren't you seeing somebody, and why aren't you dating, and how come you don't have a boyfriend? And it's like, that'd be nice. But like, is this guy going to be paying my mortgage every month? Like, I'm not inviting some dude over to my house. Like, why? Like, he's not paying the mortgage. He doesn't get the rights to come over. Like, if it's not, something about making me money, if it's not something about fighting, and if it's not something about, how I can be a better mother, how I can be a better parent, quite frankly, I don't have time for it. And people always want to do all these things all the time. And it's just, I am on a single track mind, and I have a goal in my head, and I am going to reach that goal, and I will not be deterred, and I will not be stopped. So if it's not, involving these three things that I care about, money, fighting, my daughter, money, fighting, my daughter, fighting, money. If it's not one of those three things, I'm just like, I'm sorry, there is no balance, because I have bought into this, and this will bring me the fruits of that I'm looking for. And if it's not about that, you know what I mean, then, I also say too, do you have millions of dollars in the bank? No. What are you doing partying? What are you doing going out all the time and just,
If you haven't accomplished your fucking goals, what are you celebrating?
Yeah, what are you celebrating?
What's the party for? What are you celebrating, you fucking bum?
Exactly. Right. And so these people, they drink every weekend. They go out every weekend. They're always partying. They're always eating. They're always doing all these, like you said, making these poor choices. And then they sit there wondering, well, jealous of the things that maybe I might have accomplished or the things that I have done, thinking that it came easy. It's like, no, dude, look, have some inner reflection of what it is that you're doing every day, And I just think that, like you said, there is no balance, and there is no, it's not party time for me, because I have not reached my goals. I have not gotten to the point where I can sit comfortably on millions of dollars and not have to fight again. I'm not there yet. And so until I get there, I'm going to keep grinding, because I don't have a choice,
Hard work is for champions. I always say balance is for losers. I say, what about balance, Derek? What about balance? Balance is for losers.
Yeah.
If you want to be a winner, if you want to be a champion, this is hard work, is doing things that other people, and I don't say this as a joke, I mean these words quite literally. I think some people, that they don't pay attention to the literal meaning of the words. Like you to be a winner, to be a high level performer, you have to be willing to do things that other people are too dumb or too lazy to do. You either have to be smarter, or you have to outwork them physically outwork other people and do things, put in more time, more effort than other people are capable of doing or willing to do, and or be smarter than them, find a better way to do it. But that is the shortcut. And to do that effectively, you have to have good mentors, good coaches, good teachers. Did you figure out all this shit by yourself, or you had some coaches along the way?
There is no I in team. There is no I in team.
Yeah. When did you stop using coaches? Did you?
No, I need my coaches. They are my Sherpas. They are my flashlights guiding me up the mountain. And without them.
What about after you won the championship? You're already the best in the world. What do you need a coach for?
That's when things got really serious, and I had to take a really even closer dive into the coaches and who I had surrounding me and in my life. I think there's an old saying that is so played out, but it is so true. Hard work pays off. And the harder that I've worked, and when I work super hard at something, then I have found success. Then I have reached my goals that I was trying to hit at the time. Any time that I have not given my all, that I have had the balance so that I could make everybody happy and go to all these parties, to be at their events and all these obligations that I have to hit, that's when my focus is completely off. And like I said, hard work pays off, and that's the only thing that I always say every time. When you get that hand raised, it's like that all makes sense for all that hard work that you put in. And when you don't get the hand raised, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, what was wrong? What did I do wrong? And it's like, you kind of know at the end of the day. You kind of know where you messed up. But look, I gotta say, not perfect. I don't have all the answers. In fact, I am the first to tell you I don't have all the answers. I am a student of the game, constantly seeking more knowledge and looking for higher ground. And you learn from those types of situations. And so for me, it's been a lot of times of me hitting that wall and being like, this time I'm going to run through it. And, you know, it's this constant hitting that pavement of running my head up against the wall. But I've learned every single time, and I've learned where I've made those mistakes and what I'm going to do better and how I can improve. And, you know, that's the only thing that I can ask of myself. As long as I'm giving it my all and trying to do my best and making sure that I'm surrounded by the right people, and most importantly, putting in the work. Mat time. I don't care if it's a garage out back that you're training in, a hole in the wall that, you know, has 2 students, or the most state-of-the-art gym. The state-of-the-art gym is not going to lift the weights for you or do the work for you. It doesn't matter. Mat time is the only thing that matters. And wherever it's at, as long as you're putting in that hard work mat time, that's the only way you're going to find the success. It's just, it boils down to just hard work. And most people don't want to do the work. They're looking for a shortcut. They're looking for a way out. They're looking for a get rich quick scheme, or just thinking that, you know, a UFC belt appears around their waist out of nowhere. And
I say that, the people say that shit to me is, well, you know, how long will it take, Derek? Derek, I want to be a millionaire. Like, you know, okay, if you're willing to work hard, I could help you with that. Well, Derek, how long will it take? Well, that's up to you, really. It's like, you know, how much effort are you willing to put in? You know, how many other things you're willing to say no to if you want to say yes to, you know, creating that wealth. It depends where you started. It depends what skills you have now. It depends how quickly you're, you know, willing and able to accumulate new skills and learn how to do things appropriately. But, you know, I also tell them, don't worry about the time. It's like, if you want to get rich quick, I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
That's not what I do. But, you know, if you want to get rich, just worry about that part. You know, if you engage in the right behaviors for long enough, the natural outcome would be positive results.
right.
If you engage in the right behaviors consistently, you're going to have better resuls. If you
Right.
go lift weights consistently, you know, I don't know how long it's going to take you to gain 20 pounds of muscle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not going to. I don't know. Probably you're not going to. Probably you're going to give up first, really. But, you know, but if you go do it for enough years, you will.
Yeah.
You know, the results come. So I think that there's a lot of people, they have a crazed bias of that immediate gratification, if they want something right now. And then they won't make the long-term effort. The time's going to go by either way, dummy.
Yeah.
The time's going to go by either way. And if you're offended by the word dummy, that's you. It's you I'm talking about. You are the dumb. Smart people aren't offended by that word.
Well, it's the society, too, that we're living in these days where it's like, you get a trophy, you get a trophy, you get a trophy. And it's like, can't it just be like the winner gets the trophy? You know what I mean? It's like everybody wants to be included, and we have to be, you know, including everybody, like, oh, everyone gets a participation, you know? And I get it. But
I
it kind
don't
of takes
get it.
away from the actual getting the hand raise of being the winner, you know what I mean? And I think that that's, for me, what was so gratifying about winning the championship. It was like, I did that. No one can take that away from me. I did that. And there's not two winners here. There's only one. Hey, but, you know, sometimes you're winning, sometimes you're losing. Let's be honest. It's just like the stock market.
Well, there's a lot of things you can do to put the odds in your favor.
Right.
There's a ton of things you can do. There's plenty of things I don't know either. I don't pretend to know everything. Like, in fact, I've spent millions of dollars on teachers and coaches. We got a bunch of little trophies of sorts over on that wall over there that I got I got 3 university degrees. I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school.
Good for you.
I was in county jail when I was supposed to be finishing high school, and with charges of aggravated assault
I went there too.
and
Same
reckless
thing.
discharge of a firearm in city limits.
Yeah, boy.
You too, apparently.
Birds of a feather.
Well, at that time, I have a little scar still over here that I was, when I was 16, I was stabbed in my shoulder over there, and I thought that wasn't much fun. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
When I was 17, another young man was approaching me with a knife and bad intentions. And, I didn't shoot at him, but I fired a couple of shots near him and just wanted him to realize, like, yeah, probably this is not going to work out as the way you're thinking right now. And funny thing is, I was frowned upon in my community. It was frowned upon to shoot guns in the city. But in any case, I think about that as like, I was 17 and sitting in jail when I should have been a senior in high school. I was 18. I was back in jail for the same situation.
Okay.
I was out on bond and then went back.
Sure.
So only 90 days total.
I did 11 hours.
Ooh.
I'm a real bad ruffian.
Ooh. I spent 90 days there, and I don't know. Years later, I worked at Walmart after that. That was my last job. When I was out of jail, and I'm not proud of this, but it's true. At 18, I lied on my Walmart application to say, imagine you're lying to get a job at Walmart.
Let's be honest. Even if you would have told the truth, they probably still would have hired you.
Maybe, I don't know. But I got a job at Walmart. I was unloading trucks. I was stocking shelves at Walmart on third shift.
Wow.
And I was, so you're at this loading dock in like the cold Illinois winter, and I'm looking at the people around me. You were talking about the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And I looked at these people and I thought, everybody here is a fuck up, including me.
Right.
Everybody here is nobody's here because this was their plan to be unloading trucks at 3 a.m. and snow is drifting in around.
Yeah, freezing your nuts off.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought everybody here is a up, including me.
Right.
And I thought, if I can't outwork these people, if I can't outperform this group of people, why would I ever be qualified for a better situation? Because there's people there, they're in their 40s and 50s. I was 18.
Yeah.
So I thought, at least I had that thought at 18. I'm like, if I can't outwork these people and outperform these people, probably I deserve to be here. And then, I kind of got that in my head as a little personal challenge. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this better than anybody. And I did. And that's a low bar, but I did. And they gave me some promotions, and they gave me some more promotions, and so on. I quit that job when I was 19. But I thought to myself, if I worked just as hard on my own projects, what would my life look like later? Because I was spending a lot of time there, and I was putting in a lot of work. I thought if I worked on my own projects with the same intensity, what would my life look like later? Yeah, and I always thought if I just kept working on my own projects, and I built a business in real estate, and I helped build a couple of friends had a public speaking company. I helped build that from nothing to $1 million a month.
Nice.
And I built my own company later and collected some college degrees and all those little things.
Yeah. You're doing just fine. We know. This place is amazing. It's like a palace. It looks like a freaking, like the king lives here. This is a beautiful spot.
It is a palace.
It is. It's gorgeous. Oh my gosh. If you guys could see what I'm seeing right now, it's very nice. And, there's a thing that I think that most people are content, right? Like the complacency that they have in these jobs, that being the manager and being able to have that, ordering ability for the last 20 years is enough for some people, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think it's hard it's hard to earn a lot more if you are complacent and happy with your current circumstance. Yeah. So, I think that's been a gift to me. And again, there's some critics out there that are underperformers, extraordinarily low IQ individuals that they're like, you be happy with what you have, and whatever middle class or lower class mindset they have of like you have to be happy with what you have and part of God's plan or part of the plan of the universe. Build your own plan. Build your own plan and work your ass off and see if whatever God you may or may not believe in, see if they don't reward you for it. Because I don't think there's a whole lot of lazy people in the highest and best parts of heaven. If there is a God, whatever your God might be, I don't think there's a whole lot of lazy people in the best parts of heaven. I think there's people there that get shit done.
Hey, there is a God, and he likes people that take risks. And he likes people that go out there and try to make things happen. And I think that whether you do or whether you don't, God's always going to be with you. But when you do go take that risk, he'll be on your side and in your favor. That's what I believe.
I think the harder I worked and the more I was willing to learn, we made a few jokes about cockiness or humility earlier, and I enjoy being cocky, but the cocky is different than arrogant. If you can talk a little shit, I think you're a little cocky yourself. If you could talk a little shit but you can make good on it, that's a lot of fun. You talk a little shit, but you can deliver the goods consistently. That's a lot of fun. Everybody loves that.
Whether I talk shit or don't talk shit, I'm still going to have to get locked in the cage and go do my business anyway. So what difference does it make? What if I talk shit or don't talk shit? She's not going to try to punch me square in the mouth anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what I say.
I think an arrogant person is talking shit beyond their skill set. They're saying they're talking shit in a way that they can't deliver the goods. That's
I always deliver. That's probably why I talk shit, is because I'm going to go out there and fight my ass off. There's no questioning that.
Yeah, so I think it's fun to, I enjoy working harder, that, I can be a little cocky and talk a little shit, but I can also deliver the goods consistently and the things that I talked about. And the main point that I meant to say about that 25 years, like since I quit that job, is like, that I worked harder and harder and harder and harder over that time, that I wanted to find the best teachers and the best coaches and anything that I wanted to get good at. if you could figure it out by yourself, you would have done it already.
Right.
I think that all the time. If you were smart enough to figure out to solve your biggest problems and accomplish your biggest goals by yourself, you would have already done that shit.
Right.
So I think it's very important to admit to yourself, to have the intelligence and humility to be like, well, there's a lot of people out there that are doing better than me in some areas. I'd like to learn from those people. So when I got interested in start taking the martial arts thing seriously, I've never gone to a normal gym once. I never went to like one normal class at a normal gym ever. I had friends that were UFC people, and I asked them to come help me with some things, and then some more, and that branched off, and I had half of the damn Hall of Fame over here, working out with me and helping me with some skills. You learn fast that way. That 5 people that you spend the most time with. 25 years later, that's a big difference from being fresh out of county jail on that loading dock with being with a bunch of ups and being one yourself.
Yeah,
it's a big difference than to. Pretty much I only spend time with like high-level business people and high-level athletes, and you develop without much effort a lot of those good habits and behaviors of those people engage in rub off on you. That you're like, well, you hold yourself to a different standard over time.
Right, and I think we talked about the most people being complacent, and then the other thing that I think gets in a lot of people's way is their pride and their ego. They don't want to have to admit that they don't have all the answers. They don't want to seek higher ground because they think that they got it. But if you tell them, well, if you think that you got it, you would have already had it by now. Mm-hmm. Well, my pride is in the way, and my ego's in the way, and I can't bring myself to submit to know that, hey, actually, I might need some help here. And I think that kind of gets in the way. Like my pride, I don't want to let somebody clean my house because I can do it better, and I don't like the way that they clean, and I know that I could be the better cleaner. But it's like, again, we're not trying to be the best cleaner in the world. I'm trying to be the best fighter in the world. And so that pride and that ego, they say it for a reason, the pride will be your downfall. And I think that that's a problem that gets in a lot of people's way, is that they are very prideful. A lot of people are very prideful, very egotistical, and they don't want to seek that knowledge. And if they do, they have a problem absorbing it because they may think, I know better, or I know somebody that can do it better. But even if they did, they would go do that, and they don't, because maybe their complacency is got them in a comfortable position where they're not going to want to grow. And for me, especially in this sport that I'm in, this sport is constantly growing. It's constantly evolving. And if you don't evolve with it, it's going to pass you by. And, it's a dangerous sport that I'm in. It's not something that I can take lightly. I have to take it extremely seriously. So if you're not ready to grow, and if you're not ready to be, a person that can take your pride out of it and learn, you're not going to go very far.
I think every high performer likes their ego to some extent. And, I've thought, and I've told myself, endlessly, like, well, you have to love your goals more than you love your ego. You have to be more dedicated to your goals, more committed to your goals than you are. Your ego is not your friend. Your ego is like a borderline Freudian defense mechanism that tells you that you're already the shit, that you're already perfect, that everything's already good. And it's really hard to learn something new if you think you know everything. So I think it's, to your point, I'm agreeing with you and simply building on that I think it's extraordinarily important to understand the limitations of your current knowledge and be filling in those gaps and holes and like, what else do I need to learn? What else do I need to know? And I think any of my coaches that have spent, any time with me, would say that I'm always asking, well, what else? What can we do better? What am I missing? If I wasn't, they say, oh no, it looks good. This looks good. I'm like, well, I don't want it to look good. How do we make it closer to perfect?
Right.
If I was missing something, what would it be?
Right.
I said that the other day. I had a couple were over here, Caitlin Chukagian and her husband Kyle, and they said, oh no, it looks good, Derek. Both of them are telling me everything's good. I'm like, okay, that's real nice. But if I could do something better, what could we do better? And they kind of conferred with each other, and they're like, well, that one thing, you're kind of crossing your legs instead of shuffling. And I'm like, there it was,
Yeah.
And I didn't see that myself.
Yeah.
And then they said that, and I'm like, yeah, I did do that, didn't I? And then I fixed that, and then we went back on the mats the next day, and then I did it better,
Yeah.
I'd much rather, it's never going to hurt my feelings for somebody to tell me, somebody that has good knowledge, good information, and has your best interest in mind. It never hurts my feelings for somebody to tell me how I could do better,
Yes, your ego is not your amigo.
I'm stealing that.
Yes, your
here it is on tape. I know there's where I heard it first, but I'm stealing that. That's
your
great.
ego is not your amigo. And I think that one of the reasons why people like you or myself or any other of these, 40 champions that you have interviewed or all these people that you have around you, what is the one thing that they kind of have in common? And one thing that I can notice for myself is I don't want to say that I am a complete perfectionist, but I strive to do it perfectly and I want to do it perfectly. So I always say, don't bullshit a bullshitter. You know what I mean? Tell me exactly how it needs to be done. And then I'm going to strive for that perfection or trying to get to as close as that perfection as I possibly can, And I think that that's one thing that has made me successful is just always wanting to do it right and always wanting to do it my best and always making sure that I got it 110%, because otherwise the only person that's going to be getting hurt on the back end of that is me, myself. And since my neck is on the line, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right every single time. And I can't have these yes men around me that are just going to, blow smoke up my butt and tell me that, you're doing it great. It's like, I know if I'm not doing it great, and I need people around me that are going to hold me accountable. Because if they're not, then what are they doing here? I could go get 10 Joe Blows off the street and they're going to tell me how perfect and awesome and amazing I am. That's not the idea. I want to make sure that I'm getting the right information and then striving for perfection and executing it every single time, because that's what makes people successful.
So you had a lot of great points. So there's something I've asked every champion. I've had people, all sorts of people, won different gold medals in the Olympics, and a lot of fighters, and people from other sports, football, et cetera. And I asked all of them, do you ever see somebody that had one of those big shiny UFC belts or a Super Bowl ring on their hand, maybe a big trophy held high above their head, and that universal sign of victory? You ever see anybody that won a championship, that was the best in the world at something, that didn't have a great team of coaches and mentors and people that helped them along that path?
No.
You think that's possible?
No.
Why didn't you just do it by yourself?
You can't.
Oh.
You can't. It's like raising a child. You know what I mean? And it is. It takes a village. And it's so funny that I say that, because when I'm in camp, I become the baby, and I become the one that needs the village around me in order to reach those goals. It takes a village, and I can't do it on my own, because that's what's so important about fighting, is that you have somebody whose eyeball that you trust. Because sometimes when you're inside the octagon, you can feel things, but you can't see things. And you need a good eye on the outside that's going to help you see. Even though I'm in the mix and even though I'm the one doing it, I can't see everything. I don't know everything. And so I'm trusting that my team is going to help raise me up. They are my Sherpas. They are the ones that are holding the flashlight to guide me up the mountain. And without them, I'm nothing. It takes a village. And these people are pivotal in my success. Without them, I'm nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't have all the answers, and I'm looking to these people to guide me.
What do you say to somebody watching this that thinks that, yeah, that's really nice, guys, and maybe they're entertained by our conversation, but they're like, yeah, I'm just going to figure it out by myself. I'm just going to do my own thing. Do it my way. I'll figure it out by myself. What would you say to somebody that has, that sort of a mentality? Do you think they're going to accomplish much?
Best of luck to you, best of luck. And if you do, please let me know how you did it. I'd be very curious, but I don't have time for people like that, because they're ignorant, you know what I mean? And you
extraordinarily low IQ individuals.
You can't work with somebody like that, you know what I mean? I think that's why people like to work with me, because they know that I'm willing to seek that knowledge and look for that help. And I always say, you point and I'll shoot, you guide and I'll go, you say when and I'll jump, so I need that. I need these people that are going to help keep me on track, that are going to make sure that I'm where I'm at when I'm supposed to be there. And not that I necessarily need a babysitter or that I can't make decisions without these people, but this is my team. And they always say that there is no I in team, and it's true. I absolutely can't do it on my own, and I wouldn't want to.
I think what you said about accountability is very useful. People don't like that term. And, people that don't do much don't like that term. They feel like they're being treated like a child. Like you mentioned the term babysitter related to this too. Like,
yes.
When I wanted to change things a couple of years ago, I was fat. I never did any MMA training. I just started 2 years ago on MMA stuff. I lifted weights before then for some time, so at least I was strong in fat, not weak in fat, which that helps. And I wasn't fat because I was lazy. I was fat because I just worked and worked and worked and worked. And I got tired of being fat, and I thought, well, what are we going to do? I'm not going to go do a bunch of cardio. And I'm like, I was always interested in martial arts. I'm like, let me go play with that. And to keep myself on track with that, I just create a schedule months in advance of. I have a bunch of world champions and top contenders come over and train with me week after week after week after week, like about 60 sessions a year for about 19 days a month.
Wow.
Just constantly. And what am I going to do when I scheduled it that way, where they're staying with me? I have my own training facilities. They're staying here with me in the guest suites, etc. Am I going to show up and next week Glover Teixeira's coming over and tell Glover, hey Glover, my tummy hurts. I don't really feel like it today. Or hey, Chuck Liddell comes, or Hoist Gracie. Hoist, I got a little headache. I got a little headache, Hoist. Chuck, I got a little headache. I don't feel like it today. Can we just chill instead? Imagine saying that.
Yeah.
Imagine saying that. So it doesn't matter how you feel. It's like we're early afternoon, about noon, we're going to get together. We're going to have lunch. We're going to lift some weights. We're going to go train. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're going to do it the next day. And we're going to do it the next day. And we're going to do it the next day. And that's what we're going to do. So I think creating those accountability mechanisms where you'd feel just stupid. It doesn't matter what mood you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a little sick. You're going to go do the thing. And maybe you can only do it 80% today. Maybe you can't give 100% of your normal full effort, but you're still making progress.
Right.
And I think that consistency of those incremental progress, it sure adds up over time. So I think that's important for anybody. I think people that already have great results at something tend to know that truth, and people that are procrastinators and ignorant, as you say, and extraordinarily low IQ individuals, they think, well, I'll figure it out by myself. It's like, nah, man. If you could do it by yourself, you would have done it already. So I think this is very important. And you touched on this brilliantly several times. Very important to admit to yourself, if you could do it by yourself, you would have done it already. You need coaches, you need help to get high-level results. Everybody with high-level results had those people that helped them on the way.
And I think that one of these things, again, that we were talking about nowadays in society, a lot of people lack that accountability. They don't want to have to say, I messed this up, or I don't have all the answers, And that's the thing that kind of drives me crazy, is because I'm the first to say, I messed that up. I'm sorry. I don't have the answers. Please show me how to do it right. Mm-hmm. Or please help me in this, or please help me in that. Except if you're a cleaning lady, I don't want you. But what I mean is that a lot of people lack accountability and that self-reflection of, this could be my fault. This could be something that it's actually everywhere you look, people have excuses. Mm-hmm. And in fighting, I don't have that luxury to have these excuses. You know what I mean? Whether you won, whether you lost, you got to take it on the chin and eat it. And that's just the way that it is. And I think that if people could take more accountability for things instead of, looking for scapegoats, they might even be able to find a little bit more success.
So, very interesting, and we'll maybe wrap up two little bullet points, is that I'm curious your take on this. Something you said, it made me remember a thought that I've had many times, is like, well, it may not be my fault. Something happened. Yeah. It might not be my fault, but success is my responsibility. My success is my responsibility. It's not anybody else's responsibility. Right. So something shitty happens, it's not my fault. It's still my responsibility to fix the thing, get past the thing, and go do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that's going to lead to the, more success and more results and more winning. So, I think that helped me to think of it that way. It might not be your fault. Your mommy said mean words to you and hurt your little bitch ass feelings. Well, my mommy said mean words to me too, but it's still my responsibility to go be successful. Right. Whatever other circumstances you had in life, it might not be your fault, but your success is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to go earn outcomes that are respectable, to you and to those that you want to spend time with. Do you have any thought of that, or I think you already touched on it?
That's championship mindset. That's championship mentality. That's what it takes to be a champion. There's some ground rules that you have to set for yourself, and if you can't meet these ground rules, no ego, no pride, being willing to learn and evolve, taking accountability, you will find success if you can do these things, and that's a championship mindset. If you can't grasp this concept, it's going to be very difficult for you to reach that championship status. And I'm not even talking about in fighting. I'm just talking about in life, and you have to be willing to walk through the fire. For me, I see a bed of coals and they say you can't walk past it. You can't walk past that bed of coals. You can't walk through that fire. And I actually say I can and I will. I can and I will. And I think that that's what separates me from the majority of most people, is that I'm willing to walk through a little bit of a hotter fire than most people. And that to me is not something necessarily that you can teach, but it's something that you can adapt over time. And then maybe you can teach it to somebody over time. But for me, it's something that I know that I got, and it's only come through getting drug in the dirt so many times and trying so hard and trying to, those failures that have made it so that I know actually I can walk through that fire, and you know what, it's going to be easy.
That's a beautiful segue, and don't think I forgot. You said earlier, don't get me started. What is your take on the modern man? What is that for a woman who's willing to walk through those hot coals and fire and do difficult things every day? What is your take on what passes for a man today?
See, I get myself in trouble a lot, Derek. I got a big mouth, and I get myself in trouble because sometimes I say these things that are not popular by society standards. But that word that I was talking about, accountability, these men don't want to take accountability. Mm-hmm. These men don't want to say, it was my fault. I f***ed up. I'm sorry. And then they don't want to find the solution. They would much rather say, she's crazy, and just rid the hands, And so I think that a lot of men are prideful, they're egotistical, and they don't want to take accountability. And that to me is weak. And a lot of these men I feel like are, why aren't you buying me the presents? Why aren't you doting on me? Why aren't you obsessed with me? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like the roles have reversed a little bit, in society, the roles have reversed. And it's kind of like these men are not alphas. They're not the leaders that they're, the providers, the ones, the typical man that, this girl is going to be protected underneath my arm and underneath my wing, and I'm going to protect her at any and all costs. That is less and less nowadays. They want to be the one that gets protected underneath the wing, and it's like, also I find a lot of men are intimidated and taken back by the success that I have found myself in. They think, because I fight that I'm this gigantic, scary lady that wants to fist fight all the time. And it's like, I fight for money and I fight for a job. I don't want to fight with you.
You don't want to beat up the poor guy.
I don't want to fight with you. I'm not going to punch you. I don't bite hard. I don't bite that hard. You know what I mean? I think that the way society is going these days is like, I'm just again, all that stuff is going to come, and I'm not too worried about that right now. Honestly, that's the furthest thing from my mind is men in relationships. But I can say that from my track record, it's just they don't make them like they used to. That's all I have to say.
You've made an interesting comment in there about a man being a good protector or provider, and I say that with my girl all the time. It's like, it's not my primary job is to not say nice words. I can say some nice words sometime, because imagine who's sweeter than me. But my primary job is to be a good protector.
Right.
And then after that, to be a good provider.
Right.
And then somewhere farther down the list, when there's some capacity, I'll say some nice words on occasion. But it's not my primary duty. It's not the primary thing that a man should be focused on in a woman's life. So it's primary job, be a good protector, be a good provider, and say some nice words with the leftover capacity later on.
Well, men want respect and women want love. And the only way that men will get the respect is if they give the love, and the only way that the woman will get the love is if they give the respect. So it's a two-way street, and love and hate are two horns on the same goat, and they walk together. And so I also think, this I will say, obviously, like I said, the whole accountability and, it's men's fault, but it's also women too. You know what I mean? Women are fickle, and in some instances, they're just ready to, run for the hills instead of, digging down deep and fighting for a relationship and making it work. And so
How excited is she supposed to be about a guy who's not excited to be a man and do his part? How excited or committed should a woman be to that type of person?
That's exactly right. And so I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's like, you want me to be excited about you being a low performer who's complacent, who doesn't take accountability and lacks any self-awareness? Like, that's not attractive, you know? So like I said, it works both ways. And it's men and women in general, you know. That's just the human nature of the way that things go. But most importantly is that I want to surround myself with people that I don't have to explain this to. They just are. They just get it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to sit there and fight with this person and try to mold them into who I want them to be. The person that I want them to be is going to be the person that they already are, and we'll be able to line up, you know, spiritually, mentally, and all that jazz. But until then, I got to go get my money bag.
Get your money, get your belt back, girl.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming through and sharing a bit with me, with the audience. If you're not getting the results you'd like in life, you probably haven't put in the work yet. And if you could have done it by yourself, you probably would have done it already. So if you're serious about your success, you're serious and you want some help to go make at least $1 million. I don't want to help somebody. I mean, you could have a mediocre net worth by yourself. You probably already got that. You don't need my help with that. If you want to make at least $1 million and grow that from there, I'm happy to help you if you're willing to help yourself. Thank you so much for coming through.
That's right. Hard work pays off.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you the pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.